I love that song. Oh, that was a song that I used to listen to when I was discerning my direction in life and discerned to go back into pastoral ministry. So it's really touching to me that we are all one heart. We are all one mind. We're all in this together. As I think about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his effect on my life, his effect on our country and our world, I looked at one of these quotes, and this comes from his I Have a Dream speech. Each year I listen to at least part of I Have a Dream as well as other speeches. I also listen to some speeches by Malcolm X. It's like, how are we doing with the vision and the mission that Martin Luther King Jr. was holding for all of us? It's about all of us. That's why it's a national holiday. It's about all of us. We're all in this same boat. We may have arrived from different boats, but we're all in the same boat now. So, here's a quote from his I Have a Dream speech. And just ask yourself, how are we doing with this? How are we doing with this vision? With this faith, and that's the power of the month, faith. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. Are we there yet? With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. That was his vision. That we are all in this together, holding each other in prayer, holding together in the struggle that all of us be free, that all of us can claim on that promissory note that we are all created equal, and that each and every one of us has access to all there is available. As I was listening to Malcolm X, he was saying, sitting in a restaurant doesn't make you a diner at that restaurant if you're sitting at the table and across from you is someone who is gorging on their food, but you have none. He said, being in a restaurant doesn't make you a diner. And his radical words were, being born in America doesn't make you American if you're not able to partake in the same dream and the same promise that's afforded to the others. So, how are we doing? Have we reached that place of equity? Are women being paid the same amount as men to do the same work? Are certain groups still being targeted to be pulled over? Maybe you've heard of driving while black, where you can just get pulled over for being black. Now, when I was a young person, yeah, I'd get pulled over. I had long hair and I looked kind of unusual, so sometimes they just pull me over. I remember in Kansas City when I was pulled over and the officer had me step out of my vehicle and he asked me, "Are you the person who committed embezzlement at the 7-Eleven?" I said, "No, I'm not, sir." He said, "Well, you look like the person who did." I said, "Well, I can't speak to that. I may look like them, but I can assure you it wasn't me." I didn't know how that was going to go. I didn't know if I was going to get arrested, but I wasn't fearing for my life. I wasn't thinking about if the next move that I make or the next thing that I say could lead to me getting put down on the ground or being hit or having a knee on my neck, or we didn't have tasers then, but I didn't fear that. And yet many black families have to have this speech with their children about how to respond when an officer pulls you over, because they want to see their children come home. When my son has been pulled over, I didn't worry about if he was going to be able to come home. Not all of us have the same rights. So there's still work to do, right? Now, we just came through Christmas, which is a wonderful, wonderful time. For some of us, it exacerbates the whole sense of loss, sadness, inequity. And for others, it's a great, joyful time. I love these words of Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman was a professor, theologian, philosopher, minister, who was a mentor to Martin Luther King. And Howard Thurman wrote this poem. And this poem is entitled, "I Will Light Candles for Christmas." And this is a portion from that poem. So this is about at the end of Christmas. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among brothers, to make music in the heart. Howard Thurman was the one who said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. And go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive." I've wrestled with this message. I've wrestled with it. Sometimes it's not pretty on Saturdays. I shut the door and I'm wrestling in secret in there. My wife peeks in once in a while to see if I'm still breathing. Then she shuts the door. I've wrestled with this message because I think about the inequities. I don't want to lay guilt. And yet, I want us to come fully alive. So if I say anything that sounds a little too hard, just breathe into it or just dismiss it if you can. given that disclaimer, sometimes I feel like I'm living in a morgue. Sometimes I feel like I am living in a world where people just go through the motions and they're going with the programming that they are told, but they haven't fully come alive. And it's like we have a dead body reunion and we get together and we look at the surface and it's like, oh, aren't they beautiful? But we're not fully alive. We're not fully alive to what's happening in our world. We don't necessarily want to know. We don't want to know some of the things that are happening. One of the ways that our spiritual community has helped people to know, and I don't know if Cindy is watching, but Dr. Cindy Acker, for 2 years, every week, I hosted it on my Zoom, but for 2 years, every week, Cindy has met with us and led classes to help us to try to understand some of the things that are happening in our world in our class called Getting Real with Race. It's not only touched on race, it is touched on inequities when it comes to things like gender fluidity or sexual orientation. It's come to things like, there's so many areas in which many of us have felt like we weren't invited to the party. Have you ever found out about a party and you weren't invited? And maybe you come to a gathering and you see a group huddled together in shared whispers as they revel in the wonderful time at the party, and you walk up and then suddenly the conversation changes. We are all invited to the party. All of us. Every single one of you. Whatever your ethnicity, whatever your race, whatever your sexual orientation, whatever gender or fluidity that you are ascribing to, we are all part of the same party. We're all invited. And that's what Martin Luther King Jr. saw, is that we are all one. Isn't that amazing? That some people in unity think this is not a unity message. Some people in unity don't think that I should talk about race. Some people in unity don't think we should talk about prejudice or racism or inequity. Because they say, oh, that's not according to principle. I just know when I go into meditation, I know the oneness, I know that there's only one power and one presence and all is good. Well, frickin' la-di-da. I know that all is one. I know that there's only one power and one presence. I know that there is transformative power in our meditation. I know that there is amazing divine coming forth as us, but it's not just to build a silo around ourselves. Unity principles, second principle, states that we are all one. By saying that each and every one of us are the divine, expressing each and every one of us are that divine presence in action. We are all one, therefore. Therefore, what happens to you is happening to me as well, because we're one. Again, my rabbi mentor told me the reason Leviticus 19:18, and then he turns to me and says, and Jesus was quoting from that. You guys took everything from us. Anyway, Leviticus 19:18 that says, love your neighbor as yourself. He said, that's because your neighbor is yourself. That's our second principle, that we're all this presence of God in action. And our fifth principle is that it's not enough for us just to know these principles, but we act on them, we live them in our daily life. So how do we come fully alive? Well, one of the things, oh, by the way, Getting Real with Race, that class, it's starting up this Wednesday night. It'll be from 5 until 7. There will be a new Zoom link, so register for it. Get the new Zoom link. There will be a new what? There will be a new Zoom link. Don't try to go to the one you went to before. Okay. And right after this service, Melissa, wave your hand. Melissa will be leading a vision board experience for people to think about what you're envisioning for your life, how you can come fully alive, how you can really live in this life. And what I notice is that when people come fully alive, then they are noticing what's going on around them. Then they notice with love ways in which they can be of service, but they're doing it because it's how they come alive. Some of you may have seen the movie Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams. Yeah, it's a great, great movie. Occasionally, and it can be in a church setting, it can be out in the marketplace, it can be wherever. Occasionally, I feel like I am in a dead living society where we haven't fully come alive. One of the ways that we can fully come alive is our mission. Now, I've been looking at our mission for Unity and Marin. Some people say this is our vision statement, but it's talking about what we're doing right now. That's what a mission statement is. What it is that we're doing, how we're operating. A vision statement is about what we're shooting for, what we are shooting for in the future, the direction in which we are moving. So our mission statement for Unity and Marin is, we are a spiritual community. Well, there's a key. We're a spiritual community. It's not just a club. Committed. We are committed. To authenticity. We are a spiritual community committed to authenticity. To me, authenticity means fully coming alive, being what we really are, being that divine presence, being willing to speak up. I thought about Martin Luther King and I wondered, how did he step into what he was doing? He was living authentically. He was living authentically. Bless you. He was assassinated when he was 39 years old. Think about all he accomplished up to that point. I thought about Malcolm X. He was assassinated when he was 39 years old. But fully living into our mission. We are a spiritual community committed to authenticity and the expression of love. Some people think love is just like, ooh, I love you, baby. L-U-V, love. Do you love me? But love is really a verb. It's really a verb. Love is action. Love is something that we're doing with one another to help each other to transform, transmute, to fully come alive. We are a spiritual community committed to authenticity and the expression of love and support. Support can be holding someone in prayer. It can also be listening to them. It can be showing up for one another. Love and support for each other in living an awakened and enlightened life. I think of awakened as being fully alive. You're awake. Awakened and enlightened life. Now that's pretty good. Now it doesn't necessarily talk about service. It doesn't necessarily talk about getting out in the world, although it implies it. But when you go to our 3 core values, that we connect with Spirit, inspiring each other, the community, and the world. Holy smokes! It isn't just for in here. We're supposed to be involved in the community and the world? Oh my goodness. We also grow in consciousness through education, healing, prayer, and we serve Spirit, community, and the world. Here again, the community and the world. It shows up twice in these short 3 statements. Evidently, Unity in Marin believes in being a force for good in the world. Evidently, Unity in Marin believes what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, when it's always the right time to do what's right, to step out, to step up, to be brave, to be bold. There's genius in being bold. So we serve Spirit, community, and the world with love, joy, and a... Right. I can always remember Charcel when we used to say this every Sunday. And a sense of adventure. That's coming fully alive. Fully alive. I think it's better to live 39 years fully alive than to live to 85 and never having lived. Now, you folks that are watching online, and connect, do you have that link so that they can see the link so that they can look it up? Cool. Because we're going to watch a 2-minute YouTube video. This video is the last speech that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave. Last speech. I have been to the mountaintop. And he gave this the night before he was assassinated. And listen, it gives me chills even as I'm thinking about it. Listen to the last words that he says in this speech. Remembering that this is the night before he is assassinated. And those of you who are watching online, if our wonderful YouTube people tend to mute this or shut it down, you can look it up on this link. Please stay with us. Don't drop off.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Yeah. He originally wasn't going to be there to give that speech. He had a fever and a sore throat. He asked his friend Ralph Abernathy to talk, and Ralph could tell the people really wanted to hear Martin Luther King, so he called him up, and so this was an extemporaneous speech that he gave, his last speech. But he knew what his mission was. He knew what he was about. Do you know what your mission is? Do you know what it is that you're wanting to step into? Do you know what the presence of God is leading you to be and to do? Be bold. Step into it. Yeah, it might make you stand out a little bit. But hey, I don't think we're here to all be the same. Again, the name of this spiritual community is unity, not uniformity. You're different on purpose. You're not only different on purpose, you're different with a purpose, a mission to do something amazing. We are here to live into our principles. We're here to live into our divinity. We are here to help shift this world by knowing oneness in ourselves, by expressing oneness in this world. We shift the global consciousness, and we can help this place to wake up. We are an alarm clock. Let's be waking up. Please repeat after me. Who I am is the presence of God. I live boldly. I stand out. I'm not shrinking back. I'm here to do what my purpose is. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.